Welcome, good morning, and welcome everyone to this our Friday live. It's Friday and it's the last day of the month, and we are back here with another live session. It's our usual lunch and learn, but today we are a little bit earlier than lunch, so probably I would say it's our breakfast session this morning. But I want to welcome you, everyone, into the room. Those who are on LinkedIn, those who are on Facebook, and I am just taking a moment here to just uh, put this on the other medias because we're coming live from both LinkedIn, Facebook, and from YouTube. And with me this morning, as usual, is Dr. Siegfried Howell, my co host on this program. Dr. Howell has been here with us for the past year and over. And we are still delighted to have you, Dr. Howell, sharing with me
Thank you.
this morning in this our live session. Let me just tell you who Dr. Howell is. Dr. Howell is actually a life, happiness, and relationship coach and consultant. And he's also a master life coach. He coaches and equips men and women they love, the men and the women they love, who struggle with internal, intimate, and professional relationships. And he's also available for corporate leadership and management training and personal development. And as usual, you know me, I'm Dr. Janice Brooks. I wear many hats. I'm a leadership consultant, coach, and trainer with the Maxwell Leadership Certified team. I'm also a life strategist. I'm a licensed pastoral counselor, and I also specialize in temperament counseling and coaching. And I am available for corporate training, coaching, and personal development at all times. So today we are talking about a topic that is so relevant to life and leadership. And this topic is uh, leadership, leadership power plays and manipulation. Leadership power plays and manipulation. And when we think about this topic, I first want us to take a look at what effective leadership is, because without knowing what one is, sometimes we confuse it with the other. And so I say effective leadership is really leadership that goes the extra mile. Effective leadership is not about manipulation, it's not about trying to get out front. It requires more than just technical skills and knowledge. It requires that ability to connect deeply with people on an emotional level and to inspire them to do their best. On the other hand, leadership power play and manipulation is none of what I had said before. As a matter of fact, manipulation and power play can sometimes mask itself as negative feedback, but it is not. As a matter of fact, Dr. Howell, I personally believe that manipulation and power play is actually a demonic force that is unleashed against people who are considered by them to be inferior to them. When you think about um, power play and manipulation, what comes to your mind, Dr. Howell?
Well, that is a very potent question. One of the things that I want to bring out is people come to leadership position with two types of power: personal power and positional power. The personal power is your swag, your charisma, your authenticity, what you bring to the table. Um, when when you go into a room, there's certain people that you gravitate towards because they seem more warm, more inviting, they seem more knowledgeable, and that has to do with your character, your characteristics, your gifts, and all that stuff. But then you also have people who are positional in that power. And so when you have positional power, that just means that you have a title and you have a certain level of responsibility and actions that go with that particular title. That does not mean necessarily that you are as powerful as you want to be. If you look at people like Malcolm X, he commanded power without really having that power because he was not the head of his organization, but he exuded so much power that the head of his organization got a little intimidated. And even when even when he interacted with the police, they were saying that is too powerful a person, and we have to do something about that. And then when you look at Jesus and you look at the Pharisees, I almost call them parasites. When you look at the Pharisees, they had the power, but Jesus had power, but with no money.
Mm.
And so you come into a situation where you start to understand that power is not necessary because of your position, but a combination of position and personal power. See, Jesus got his power from God or heaven Almighty. You had people like Moses who had power, but he got it from God because he said, God, I stutter. I don't feel that I am worthy to go in front of Pharaoh. So God gave him personal power. And then because he was faithful, he also got positional power where he was able to lead the people to the promised land. So when you talk about manipulation, what I get from that is God has given me gifts and I'm using my gifts for my own selfish gain. I'm using my gifts to get around you, your thoughts, and your actions to get my agenda done. And so leaders have to be very careful to stay in connection with their main purpose. Leaders have to be careful to stay in connection with their values because power can become intoxicating.
Mm.
And with that intoxication comes manipulation.
You are 100%, and you have walked into some deep waters right there. Because power does corrupt, and you talked about the personal power and the positional power. And both of these types of power can be used for the benefit or should be used for the benefit of others, but
Mhm.
also they can be used in a negative way. And that is where we're talking about power plays and manipulation. So, Dr. Howell, I am thinking and asking the question, how can manipulation as a leader towards the subordinates in the organization damage the cultural climate? And I personally believe that in any organization that we go, the climate can really be significantly impacted when any leader at all, whether they're the top leader, the middle leader, or even the team leader, when they engage in manipulation, these tactics towards the subordinates can really damage the climate. And some of the ways that this panel, Dr. Howell, is, and my audience, is that it involves the use of deceit and coercion and underhanded techniques to control and influence. Sometimes it's for their own personal gain. And when I say personal gain, is to really put themselves above where they think they are.
Yes.
They are not there. But if I coerce you, if I I'm deceitful to you, if I use underhanded techniques, I'm going to look like I'm this real big man person or big woman person, and I'm above you. So when a leader resorts to those kind of behavior, the first thing happens that it erodes the trust of the employees, and it creates a toxic work environment, and ultimately it's going to hamper the growth. You cannot expect that growth is going to occur in an environment like that. So if there is a leader that is listening to us or to me today, just remember that manipulation by a leader, first thing it does, it undermines trust within the organization. And subordinates are persons below you who are subjected to manipulation tactics. They lose their faith in their leaders' intentions, and they become skeptical of all your actions. You don't tell me you're going to manipulate me, and then I'm going to believe in you, and I'm going to not be skeptical of your actions. And so, just to wrap this up, Dr. Howell, and I'm going to have you add, because I believe that when we say we lose trust, trust leads to a wider array of things. It literally opened up a sinkhole, because trust leads to breakdown in communication, breakdown in collaboration, breakdown in teamwork, and employees become more guarded and hesitant to do things. So those are some of the ways that I believe manipulation and power play really negatively affect the organization and the leader. Dr. Howell, go ahead and add to that.
The way I want to approach this is from this particular perspective. We are all born to do a specific purpose, and a lot of times we go into areas because of money, because of prestige, because of influence, and it might be adjacent to what our main purpose is, but not fully in an alignment with what God wants us to do. And what happens is people follow you because they see that there's some level of authenticity. But along the way, a lot of these leaders get disillusioned, and they start to believe that they are the ones that are doing all of this. And I want to take you back a little to Grenada and Jim Jones. He was a very charismatic preacher, and he got a lot of people to follow him, and he got hooked up with a lot of government entities, because he was taking care of kids, he was taking care of families. He started out in such a good way that a lot of government agencies got behind him. But because he strayed from his main purpose, he started to develop a godlike complex, to the point that people within the organization started to see, and then people started to leave, and then people started to get an idea of what was really happening. Same thing with David Koresh. David Koresh was another preacher who was very charismatic, and he got people to come into his organization, and both these people got individuals to turn over their life savings and their inheritance and everything to their cause. And so he was manipulating them. He did not start out that way, but it became that way. And so a lot of times manipulation does not necessarily start as manipulation. It might start as something good, but once you start to see how easy it is short term, and what you can get from them short term, then you start to push the envelope, and then it becomes full-fledged manipulation. And like you said, everything that we do, life is a system. You go into a church, there is a system. It's an organism. Every church is a living organism made up of moving parts. And the hardest thing for a preacher or a leader of a church or any business is to navigate the ins and outs of that organization. Because if you push too hard in HR, it's going to affect the experimental area. It's going to affect sales. It's going to affect every place. And so you cannot hurt one area without affecting the other area. And so in the short term, and for a short-minded or an immediate minded leader, it seems like manipulation gets the job done. But as you so eloquently stated, it leads to the erosion of the system as where people collaborate. It erodes the culture of the system. It stops people from wanting to be out front, from innovation, from trying new things. And so it creates a situation where people no longer want to put their best foot forward.
Yes.
So if you are a short-minded leader and you just want results right now because people are looking over your shoulder, then manipulation is one of the fastest ways to get that done. But long term, it would erode the fabric of that organization.
Wow. You are on point. I mean, we could write a book about this, but we are only here for 30 minutes. And Dr. Howell, when I look at some of the very valid points that you have just made a
Mhm.
minute ago, I am led to want to ask about the damages that can occur when leadership, and you mentioned a wholesome leadership. You mentioned wholesome leadership because you talked about the church, the workplace, you talk about anywhere. And I like to say in life and leadership because everything is part of life.
Yes,
What are
yes.
some of the damages that can occur when leadership resorts to guilting and shaming? And we have to face current reality because this is happening in many facets of life. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you mentioned the church because it does happen in churches too,
Hmm.
where leaders, because of this power play and this spirit of manipulation that has literally overcome them, they act it out to and resort to guilting and shaming persons, employees, wherever they are, members,
Hmm.
wherever. But when a leader chooses to get to that level, it can have detrimental effects on both a mental stability of whoever it is, whether it's in the organization, I say mental stability of the employee. In the church, it's the same thing, the school, anywhere it is, even if it's in the home. And then when we think about the mental stability, where it smashes that person whole a sense of self and self-esteem if they are not strong, and sometimes even if they're strong, they are still burdened by it, then their overall morale will drop. As a matter of fact, some of them morale drops so low that it's hard, it's challenging to get it back to where it was. And then if we think about the workplace, productivity within that organization is definitely going to fall. So if you are a leader who are constantly using guilting and shaming to have your own way, let me say, to have your own way, just know that this experience will result in decreased motivation for whoever it is that you are dealing with, whether it's your team, your church, your school, your whoever you're dealing with. That is one of the main challenges of using this kind of leadership. Um, and it creates toxicity, and that's it. People start to feel anxious, stressed, demoralized. It's a whole gamut of things that happen when leaders resort to this. What do you add right there, Dr. Howell?
I would like to add to that. If you look at churches again, let's say the church has a strict policy that young girls aren't supposed to get pregnant. And if you get pregnant, we're going to kick you out of the church. Well, if they do it publicly, it is very humiliating to the girls that get pregnant. But then they don't do anything to the guys who got the girls pregnant. So it's almost as if the girls get ostracized for getting pregnant, but it took two to tango. And so a lot of times, if you look back to the story of the prostitute in the Bible, where they said to Jesus, "Hey, she broke the law. What do we do with her?" And he got down and he started writing in the sand. And everyone came, looked over, and they saw their own sins right there in the sand, and they all dissipated. Now, why am I bringing that up? I'm bringing that up because they were trying to shame that girl as well as trap Jesus. But
Mm,
we need to remember we all fall short at some point in time. A leader is not good in every single last area. So if you are a leader in a large organization, you might be good at HR, but are you good at sales? Are you good at management? Are you good at the experimental areas? Are you good at insurance? Are you good at the all of the other areas? And so when you get into a meeting and you are pitching your idea and someone raises their hand and say, well, what about this? Or have you considered this? And you shame them into coming into line with your way of thinking, you create a monolithic environment. You create a situation where everyone thinks the same.
mm,
And when everyone thinks the same, there's no innovation. And the best example of that is when Netflix went to Blockbuster and said, hey, we have a streaming idea that we want you to get on board with. And Blockbuster said, listen, we have a stronghold on the VHS area of this movie business, and we're going to concentrate on that. Now, 2 years later, Netflix took off and Blockbuster was going downhill. And where are all the blockbusters now? So, a lot of times, if there was someone to say, hey, I know that we have the corner of this market unlocked and we have a stronghold on it, but can we consider innovation?
mm. Wow.
And if the leader was willing to listen to that, then blockbusters might still be here.
Mm.
And
Wow.
so that is something that is very, very important. The fact that if you do not listen to the
Mm,
people that you hire,
mm,
then people no longer want to speak up. And then when you embarrass people in meetings, nobody wants to give you fresh and exhilarating ideas. No one wants to raise their hand and pitch an idea. And so the whole system becomes stagnant because one leader is pushing their idea, and anyone who bucks that idea is shamed and embarrassed. So now, here is what the research has taught us. Whenever organizations tend to go downhill, the best of the organization jump ship because they have more options. So
wow.
what you're left with are the scraps.
Mm,
What you're left with are individuals who are not as good as at their jobs and they don't have as many options. Now, a lot of manipulative leaders want to say that's because they were not dedicated, they left. No, you were manipulative. You
mm.
tried to shame, you tried to discredit, so people left. And now, to make yourself feel better, you are saying those people were not dedicated to our cause. And so we're glad that they left.
Wow. Dr. Howell, I know we have just about 5 minutes to wrap up, but that was such an excellent point that you just made about dedication. And that's the guilt tripping part of it. Because sometimes leaders, they confuse using this kind of uh, uh, emotional tactics, and again they try to disguise it with emotional appeal, and they are different. Emotional appeal and emotional tactics are interconnected concepts, and both play a crucial role in really influencing and motivating individuals wherever you are, within a group or an organization. And one, which is the emotional appeal, is where you're able to guide and inspire and direct your employees, your members, whoever they are, towards a common goal. It
Hmm.
is not the manipulation aspect where people are constantly being guilt tripped. The appeal side is where you it involves a common goal, decision making, problem solving, taking responsibility together for the outcomes, and that is the positive aspect of these two. It is where you, as a leader, seek to connect emotionally with whoever you lead, and understanding their needs and their desires and their concerns. So we cannot end on the negative. The positive aspect, it is not the guilt tripping, the coercion. There is also the emotional appeal that you can use to counter that. The strategies are to connect on an emotional level, understanding the needs and the desires and the concerns of the people you lead, empathizing with them, showing them compassion, creating in that group or in that church or in that organization a sense of belonging. And do not mask emotional tactics for emotional appeal. Your final words, Dr. Howell.
Well, I'm going to say this real fast. As we started at the beginning, we said that there are two different types of power:
Mhm.
positional and personal. And a lot of people are good at using their positional power in a personal way to manipulate people. So, for example, have you heard commercials or have you heard people say stuff like, if you don't want to give, I don't understand. It's for the kids.
Mhm.
That is a guilt trip. Or
Yes.
you might hear a pastor say something like, well, where else do you have to be? Today is God's day. Why do you want me to rush and get through this message? And it's God's day. Don't you want to give God his time? That is
Mm.
guilt tripping. If you hear
Yes.
people say stuff like, it's for the veterans, you know that they worked hard to save us and take care of. They are the reasons why we live the way we live. If it wasn't for them fighting and giving their lives up, we won't be able to live like this. So give to the veterans.
Guilt
Or you
tripping
might see a
again.
homeless, yeah, you might see a homeless person out on the side of the road and they have a sign saying homeless veteran. And so all of these are forms of manipulation. And
Yes.
they work, but after a period of time, people get tired of feeling guilty all the time.
Mm.
And so, like you said, you have to see what people want and meet people where they are. Jesus did not tell people what to do until he met their physical and emotional needs.
Mm.
He was always feeding people. The woman at the well, he said, I know you come here and get water every day, but I can give you living water. You will never thirst again. And so he created a mental bond with her that made her want to know, what is that living water that will cause me not to thirst anymore. And so a lot of times manipulation works, but it's short term. If we
Come
just
on.
learn to connect with people on a personal level, like you said, and you gave a lot of techniques. Why can't we do that? Because yes, it might take longer. Yes, it might be more difficult. Yes, you might not meet your timeline. But in the long term, you will raise the social value of that company. You will raise the social culture. You will raise the innovation, the collaboration, and everything that you need. In order, you will have people who are willing to put the next foot forward. You'll have innovators. You will have people who are willing to give you new ideas, work doubly as hard because they know they're part of something bigger than themselves. But if you are the leader who thinks you're the biggest thing there, what you have to understand is power comes with sharing. The more you share, the more the people that you share influence other people and they get other people on your bandwagon. So you have to share the power to increase your power.
Wow. I do believe that this is a topic for greater discussion, Dr. Howell. You have said it, and we have gone through so many aspects this morning of leadership, power play, and manipulation. We have not even scratched the surface. we were just going through, because if we were to break down these organizations, Dr. Howell, probably we should do one on the church, and maybe we should do one on the society, and maybe
Yeah.
we should do one on the workplace,
Okay.
because the tactics are so separate, but they
Hmm.
are conclusive.
Yes.
And when you talked about even the man on the road with the sign, sometimes it's manipulation indeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is subtle and it can disguise itself as something else. And the final words here today, I thank you so much wherever you're joining us from, on the LinkedIn, on the Facebook, or on YouTube, or if you listen to the replay, you can please go ahead and do hashtag replay, so we can know you came back and watch it. The final words and the bottom line is that while emotional tactics may have short term benefits, as you stated, Dr. Howell, so rightfully, the long term negative consequences are devastating. And so we want to make sure that we stay away from emotional tactics. And if we have to use anything on the emotions, let us lean towards having that emotional appeal where people can know that we are for their greater good. I want to thank you again for joining us. Dr. Howell, my co host, thanks again. We will be back here for another Lunch and Learn next Friday. We were early for lunch this Friday, but next Friday, hopefully, we will be back during our regular lunch hours. We want to thank you so much again for joining us, and God bless you. You have a great rest of your weekend. Hope you took something away from this session this morning. Dr. Howell.
Bye, everyone. This is a good topic. Hope you come back for more sizzling topics.
All righty. Thank you so much.